Welcome to the program, everybody, from the edge of America. I'm Rick Amato. As many of you may recall, legendary football coach Joe Paterno died in January of 2012, just weeks after being forced to resign as a head coach at Penn State University, where he had coached for over 61 years. His firing occurred after the Board of Trustees determined that he had not done enough to alert university officials and law enforcement that one of his longtime former assistant coaches, Jerry Sandusky, had been sexually abusing, raping young boys. After Paterno's death, former FBI Director Louis Freeh was hired by the Penn State Board of Trustees to conduct an independent investigation into the case, and he concluded that Joe Paterno had concealed Jerry Sandusky's activities from the trustees, the university community at large, and law enforcement. However, my next two guests say that wasn't the case. In fact, they insist that Joe Paterno was framed. Joining me in studio is legendary NFL running back who played college ball for Joe Paterno, former Steeler fullback Franco Harris. Good to see you, Franco.
Thank you. Nice to see you.
And also a good friend of mine, John Ziegler, filmmaker. You've come out with a new movie called Framing Joe Paterno.
Right, the framing being figurative, not literal. We're not conspiracy theorists. In fact, we're the anti-conspiracy people. It's Louis Freeh who believes in a conspiracy for which there's no evidence.
All right. Well, let's start with you then, right there, John. You open it up. So, what is your viewpoint on the Paterno story?
Well, first of all, Franco's the star here. I mean, right. We all know that he's the Hall of Famer and the Immaculate Reception, and he's the only celebrity that has really stood up to try to get justice here. Due process. There was no due process in this case. This was a rush to judgment from day one. And in this film that I've done, The Framing of Joe Paterno at framingpaterno.com, people can see it for free. This is not a commercial endeavor. We're here about the truth. We're here about justice, we're here about due process, and we're here in San Diego for the NCAA convention, which is starting this weekend, and Franco's hosting an event on Saturday to talk about the issues that we've learned about in the 2 years since this rush to judgment. The reality is the media, in my view, blew this story from day one, and the proof has been in the pudding ever since that Joe Paterno not only didn't take part in a cover-up, he had no real knowledge of what Jerry Sandusky was up to. In fact, the prosecutor in the case, Frank Fina, has said so on CBS News. It's just that the media went, oh, shrug, we don't care, we've moved on. We already got our pound of flesh here. It's wrong, it's an injustice, and we're trying to correct it.
And by the way, you interviewed Jerry Sandusky in prison. We'll get to that in a little bit. Franco, Jerry Sandusky, 30-year assistant to Joe Paterno. That's even more as remarkable as Paterno being there 61 years. Everyone said he was Sandusky was Joe Paterno's heir apparent. It was strange when all of a sudden, 1999, he no longer is on the staff. He suddenly resigns. Does that seem a little odd to you?
You know what? People try to connect that to the scandal, but there's no connection there. Joe wasn't ready to retire, as we know. So if you look back at 1999, now we're 2011, and so that really doesn't connect. And also, when you look at the situation there, and I mean, as you touched on, where about Joe did not commit any crime. Okay, he did the right thing. I mean, he reported it the way it was supposed to be reported. And when you look at the situation here, that if Joe would have done anything else, would he have broken the law? And when you make allegations against somebody and you call the police, now there's a record of that. I mean, that false narrative could do just as much damage.
Sure.
So Joe did what he was supposed to do. He went to his higher-ups. He reported what happened. And then they did.
Just to finish up on the point about the retirement in 1999, people think that must be connected. What you have to think about what you have to believe to say that was connected. that in 1998, a false allegation that did not result in charges against Jerry Sandusky is not even known to Penn State officials because it would have been illegal for them to know about it. But Joe Paterno somehow knows because he's the god of State College. And then he allows Sandusky to coach not one, but 2 more seasons after knowing this. And by the way, I have proven in a book I wrote for free at framingpaterno.com that in 2000, Jerry Sandusky was offered the head coaching job at the University of Virginia, but the Jets lost their last 3 games of that season. A University of Virginia alumnus, Al Groh, called up and says, I want the job. They took it away from Sandusky. How would the University of Virginia not have known if it was in the coaching grapevine that Sandusky was a pedophile, especially when there were so many connections between Virginia and Penn State? It's absurd.
So why pin this all on Joe Paterno?
Frankly, it was about ratings. This was about, in my view, and my expertise is in the media. I've done 3 documentary films on the media. A lot of your viewers might know me as a conservative filmmaker from the 2008 election, media malpractice. The media blew this, not because they tried to frame Joe Paterno on purpose, but because that was the narrative that sold. That was the one that got the ratings. We've seen many similar situations where the media didn't care because there was no Joe Paterno celebrity attached to it. I don't know if you agree with that, Franco.
And well, I mean, that's part of it too. And like to me, sometimes it gets to be part of the excuse,
right?
Because when you look at someone who gave so much to the university, that why wouldn't you give that person the benefit of the doubt,
right?
I mean, why would you turn on somebody like Joe Paterno? It just didn't make any sense. And most of the time, when it doesn't make sense legally or politically or something like that, then it gets personal. Now, I want to say that there was a conflict between the Surma family and the Paterno family, and right at that time, John Surma became the chairman of the board. Now, is there any connection there? Because there seems to be some hatred on the Surma side to the Paterno family.
And so there always is when power is involved, isn't there?
Well, see, that's a really good point, because one of the main things I think that we've run into, Franco and I and others in this crusade, is that people can't get over the fact that they think Penn State pled guilty on behalf of Joe Paterno by firing him, right? Why would Penn State fire the great Joe Paterno? Why would they accept the free report? You need to understand the politics involved in Penn State, and by the way, a lot of your conservative viewers will understand that academia is the most politically correct element of our society.
It's a very good
These
point.
people are afraid of their own shadows,
right.
And whatever the media tells them, if the media is intimidating them, they're going to cave like a bad folding chair, and that's what happened here at Penn State. So people need to get out of their minds that somehow, well, Penn State said he was guilty, he must be guilty. There's a lot more complexity to this story.
Let me play devil's advocate for a moment. As this case sadly unfolded, being a Western Pennsylvania guy, I watched it closely. One thing that jumped out at me is it appeared as if Joe Paterno called all the shots at Penn State. Yeah, he may have told his higher-up reported an incident, but from everything I can tell, Joe Paterno determined who was hired, who was fired. He determined decision-making about people above him and so forth, the athletic director. There's the point I wanted to get at.
It's understandable because people think, well, he had to know because he was the god of State College.
Just before he was forced to resign, he came out and told in a press conference, as you guys know, he told the board of directors, don't consider my termination. I will resign at the end of the season. You get back to your jobs. You have more important things to do.
Because he was innocent.
And well, there's a number of excuses that they use on why they fired Joe Paterno, and every few months they came out with a new one. And one of the ones that they used was, well, he can't tell us what to do. But anybody knowing Joe know that he didn't mean that to test anybody's powers or act like he's a big shot. Matter of fact, if you really think about that statement, and from a man who's sincere about it, who cares about Penn State, he said, listen, you don't have to worry about me. You have bigger issues to take care of. Don't worry about me, okay? And also,
I get what you're saying. I've known those individuals in that age group who would communicate that way.
Right, and like they knew Joe, and the same people took that as one of the reasons, like, who does he think he is? You know, like, is he some big shot? And anybody that knows Joe, they know that he did that.
Franco, we're down to a few remaining moments. You want to say something real quick?
Just real quick, he got fired over a cell phone after 61 years. He wasn't that powerful.
Cell phone.
Right.
That's how he got fired. This god of State College was fired over a cell phone.
He got the call from John Sherman.
Right.
I mean, that's not the god.
He got
Franco, looking at you, I see some passion in your eyes. Away from the firing, away from was he guilty? Tell us what Joe Paterno meant to you as a human being.
You know what? When you look at the last 2 years, you wonder, how did Penn State survive? I mean, what is it that makes it go through all this where, you know, it's beaten, it's taken all these hits, it's pounded, people are hating Penn State, this is going on, that's going on, and yet it stood firm. The foundation of that program stood, and what made that happen? That was the foundation that Joe Paterno put in place.
He built it.
The athletes that he put in place. And after 2 years, I want to say that I've heard so many stories from so many people, right? Come up and, and tell me stories. And I have so much more respect, love, and admiration for that man than ever. And a true character of someone doesn't change. And that's how it was in the beginning, saying, no, this is not Joe. This is not who he is. And as I just mentioned, true character of someone does not change. And so they were talking about the culture of Penn State football. We knew that wasn't true. The culture of Penn State, we knew that wasn't true. The legacy of Joe Paterno, we knew that wasn't true. And so when you look at all that stuff, you say, okay, do we want to sit back and do nothing?
Right.
Or do we want to get in there and say, hey, no, this is not true, and we're going to fight, and we're going to make sure that you see the real Penn State. And these last 2 years, you saw Penn State. I mean, it has been incredible to the point where all these coaches want the job. People want to come to Penn State. It's been great. And then the last 2 years, I want to thank guys like John and other people who have been in this fight and given so much passion and time to this. And we found out so much information, so much more. This is big.
John, how did you get onto this story?
I'm not a Penn Stater. I went to Georgetown.
You're a southeastern Pennsylvania guy.
Yeah, but I liked Penn State, but didn't go there. And I'm a documentary filmmaker who believes the media is destroying this country. And this story is the perfect example of it. This was an injustice. And if it wasn't for Franco to stand up, he's the only celebrity with the guts to stand up. Justice, due process, and the truth here, the truth would have been lost. It may still lose in the long run. He's the optimist. I'm the pessimist. If obviously the Immaculate Reception, he'd be the optimist. But we're the oddest couple of all time here. He's a Democrat. I'm a Republican. This is like a Barack Obama and Rush Limbaugh.
You were an Obama delegate at
electoral. He actually was an elector for Barack Obama. Yes. I was a delegate of the 2008 Republican Convention.
My life.
This is a crazy combination. We both can't be wrong, folks.
All right, gentlemen, listen. They're telling me we're out of time. We can go on for another 20 minutes.
We can go on for another 3 hours.
We can go on another 3 hours. Hopefully we'll have a chance to have you back.
FramingPaterno.com.
It's on our viewers are watching it on the screen right now. Franco Harris, it's been an honor and a pleasure. John's always good to see you.
Thanks, Rick.
And we got this little video for our viewers as we go to a break.
Back and looking